Hi, my name is David Lowery. I wrote and directed A Ghost Story. I grew up watching movies in the 4:3 aspect ratio without realizing it, just because TVs used to be squares. And then all of a sudden TVs became rectangular. And when you would watch an old movie, it would have pillar boxes on the side, and you'd be very aware of what that aspect ratio was. So, the first time I saw Casablanca or any movie that were shot in the old Academy ratio, I wouldn't have processed the frame, the size of the frame. But then all of a sudden, when you're watching it on a 16:9 television, you realize exactly what the framing is and how unique that is and how we don't really see that much anymore. And then at a certain point, filmmakers really started to take advantage of it again. I remember most specifically when Grand Budapest Hotel came out that Wes Anderson used all sorts of aspect ratios depending on the time period in the film. He had, the Academy ratio for one period, then it would switch to 1:8:5, and then some of it was in 2:3:5. And that's something that wouldn't really have been done prior to the advent of digital cinema, because you're taking all of these different aspect ratios that are shot on different lenses and combining them into one print. Then there was Ida, the Paweł Pawlowski movie.
Nie powiedziały ci przez tyle lat. Jesteś Żydówką.
Again, watching that on the big screen, you just really feel that framing. You really feel that very rigorous claustrophobia that is beset upon the frame by, the actual choice to use that aspect ratio. And Trey Edward Schultz did Krisha. I believe the whole movie was in 4:3 until the end when it expands into 16:9. And the idea of, having the aspect ratio be pliable was really exciting. Again, that's what Wes Anderson did in Grand Budapest Hotel.
Well, it begins, as it must, with our mutual friend's predecessor, the beloved original concierge of the Grand Budapest. It begins, of course, with
Trey did that again with It Comes at Night. And then just again, watching older films. There was a movie, Hauha, with Viggo Mortensen that had the rounded edges that I ended up using in A Ghost Story that gave it the sense of it being an old photograph or an old slide. And then Carlos Regadas went from doing extreme widescreen and silent light to doing very strict Academy ratio in Post Tenebras Lux, and I loved how epic that movie felt in spite of it being constrained to this box. Kelly Reichardt was another one. She did Meek's Cutoff, I believe, in 166. And that was, again, a very conscientious choice to tell a story that you would assume would need a widescreen canvas, but she put it in a box. And that gave it a very unique perspective and didn't compromise the breadth of the image. It wasn't any less epic because of that. It was just epic in a different sort of way. So it was something that was on my mind. It was something that intrigued me, as a filmmaker who initially thought, well, shucks, every movie I'm going to make is going to be in 2:3:5 because that's the best aspect ratio that ever existed, to all of a sudden realizing, 1:8:5 is actually pretty nice. And then all of a sudden realizing, actually, 1:6:6 has got a lot of good things going for it. And eventually I just realized I liked squares. I really was intrigued by it. It was a challenge, but it was also aesthetically really appealing. Something Gus Van Sant said when he made Elephant was that he loved having an aspect ratio that was taller than it was wide because the image towered over an audience. And that really appealed to me, the idea that an image could just tower over you instead of embracing you the way a widescreen image might. It was almost scary, the idea that you have this giant monolithic image just looming over you in the movie theater. So that conceptually was really fascinating to me. And so again, in the same way that I waited till I had the right movie to do long takes with A Ghost Story, I was waiting for the right movie to come along that felt like it could use a more boxy aspect ratio. And A Ghost Story just was instantly, as I was writing it, it felt like it demanded to be shot in 1:6:6. And so I wrote it into the script, and we shot it natively on the Alexa Mini because it has a 4:3 chip, so we couldn't back out of it once we made that decision, and it, I think, was the right decision to make.